Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Students, we are going to discuss rest part of the agents that affect bone mineral homeostasis. First of all, I am going to repeat this diagram so that we can understand the bone mineral homeostasis. You can see here, I am going to take my laser pointer. You can see here, this is the vitamin D, active form of vitamin D, that is 125 vitamin D. It is produced under influence of parathyroid hormone and fibroblast growth factor 23. This vitamin D acts on the intestine and it causes absorption of calcium and phosphate. Similarly, if there is deficiency of in patients, then this promotes bone formation. Here is the calcitonin. You can see here calcitonin has opposite effect of that of this vitamin D. Calcitonin inhibits absorption from bone, whereas parathyroid hormone stimulates bone resorption. Extracellular calcium, you can see here extracellular calcium and this active form of vitamin D have negative effect on the release of parathyroid hormone from here. Similarly, this is accomplished by their activation of precursor differentiation. This B part shows the effect of parathyroid hormone and vitamin D on bone formation. So we are going to now rest of the hormonal factors that affect bone mineral homeostasis. In the previous lecture, we have discussed vitamin D, we have discussed parathyroid hormone. Similarly, we have discussed fibroblast growth factor 23. Now we are going to discuss calcitonin. Calcitonin is basically a peptide hormone that is secreted by the thyroid gland. What it does, it decreases the serum calcium and phosphate. I have told you in the previous diagram that it has opposite effect that of parathyroid hormone. Okay, it decreases the serum calcium and phosphate. How it decreases the serum calcium and phosphate? Basically, it inhibits bone resorption and moreover, it inhibits renal reabsorption of these minerals. As a result of both these effects, there will be decrease in the serum calcium and phosphate level. Bone formation is not impaired initially, but ultimately both bone formation and resorption are reduced. This hormone has been used in conditions where we suffer with acute reduction of serum calcium like in Paget's disease and hypercalcemia. Calcitonin has been approved for the treatment of osteoporosis and it increases the bone mass and it reduces the spine fractures. However, must remember that it is not as effective as teriparatide. Teriparatide, what is teriparatide? Teriparatide is a recombinant form of parathyroid hormone or bisphosphonates. Both human calcitonin and salmon calcitonin is available, but salmon calcitonin is often preferred. Why? Because salmon calcitonin has longer half-life and greater potency, and it is usually administered by an injection or as nasal. Next hormonal factor that affect your bone mineral homeostasis is estrogens. Estrogens and selective estrogen receptor modulators, SARMs. These are called SARMs. These are aloxifene and tamoxifen. You have learned them when you have learned your endocrinology. Here we are going to discuss their effect on the bone. These SARMs can prevent or delay bone loss in postmenopausal women. And how they do this? They usually involve the inhibition of parathyroid hormone stimulated bone resorption. So basically they are going to inhibit bone resorption. Long-term use of these estrogen is not recommended because of toxicity, because estrogens have effect on breast, uterus and other cardiovascular tissues. However, certain sperms like raloxifene that retain effects on the bone, but they have minimal effect on the breast, uterus and cardiovascular tissue. They can be used to prevent osteoporosis. The next factor is the glucocorticoids. Glucocorticoids produces osteoporosis, you know well. The chronic effect of glucocorticoid bone is they produces osteoporosis. However, they are useful in the treatment of hypercalcemia, and also there are other conditions like lymphoma and sarcoidosis. In these conditions, we can use these glucocorticoids. Now comes the non-hormonal agents. Up till now we have discussed the hormonal agents that includes parathyroid hormone, vitamin D, fibroblast growth factor 23, calcitonin, glucocorticoids and estrogens. Now come the non-hormonal agents that affect bone mineral homeostasis. First of all, there are the bisphosphonates. These bisphosphonates are available with different names and different pharmacokinetic properties. These are basically short chain organic polyphosphate compounds, and they reduce the bone resorption as well as formation of bone by an action on the basic hydroxyapatite crystal structure. You know that in your bone there is hydroxyapatite crystal structure. They act on this, and in this way they reduce the resorption of bone. In this class, the atidronate is the least potent and it has largely replaced by other agents. Bisphosphonates have effect on the basic hydroxyapatite crystal structure, but these bisphosphonates have other cellular effects. These effects include effect on the vitamin D production and the calcium absorption from the gastrointestinal tract. These bisphosphonates have direct effect on the osteoclast, including the inhibition of an enzyme that play an important role in the osteoclast survival. This enzyme is farnesyl pyrophosphate. Bisphosphonates are used to manage the hypercalcemia associated with some malignancies and to treat Paget's disease. Chronic bisphosphonate therapy is usually used to prevent and treat osteoporosis, and they increase the bone density and also they reduce the risk of fractures. These drugs like pamidronate, zoledronic acid or atidronate are available for parenteral treatment of hypercalcemia that is associated with Paget's disease and certain malignancies. And atidronate and other bisphosphonates are also available as oral medicine. Bisphosphonates treatment can be done orally daily, like with alendronate and rezidronate or ibandronate. It can be given weekly orally, like alendronate and rezidronate, and it can be given monthly, like ibandronate, and even annual infusion of zoledronate can be used to treat osteoporosis. The primary toxicity with bisphosphonate is usually esophageal irritation and gastric acidosis, and these patients are usually advised to take drug with lots of water and avoid the situations that permit esophageal reflux. The higher doses of bisphosphonate used to treat hypercalcemia and bone metastasis have been associated with renal impairment and osteonecrosis of the. Next non-hormonal factor is rank ligand inhibitor. The drug is denosumab. It is a human monoclonal antibody that binds to and prevents the action of rank ligand. I have told you in my previous lecture this rank ligand have effect on osteoclast, differentiation and survival. So this denosumab inhibits osteoclast formation and their activity. It is at least as effective as the potent bisphosphonates in inhibiting bone resorption and can be used for the treatment of postmenopausal osteoporosis. This is administered subcutaneously every 6 months, which avoids gastrointestinal side effects. This drug is well tolerated, but because this rank ligand have effect in the immune response, so there may be increased risk of infections when you are using these rank ligand inhibitors for the treatment of osteoporosis. Next drug is calcimimetics. In such drug is cyanosalacet. It lowers the parathyroid hormone by activating the calcium sensing receptor in the parathyroid gland, and it is used for the oral treatment of secondary hyperparathyroidism. in chronic kidney disease and for the treatment of hypercalcemia in patients with parathyroid carcinoma. In this case, these drugs are causes the lowers the parathyroid hormone level. Its toxicities include hypocalcemia and adenemic bone disease, a condition in which profoundly decreased bone cell activity occurs. Next drug is fluoride. The appropriate concentration of fluoride in drinking water as an additive in the toothpaste, as you know, it is additive as in many toothpaste, have well documented ability to reduce dental caries. However, chronic exposure to the iron, especially in high concentration, may increase new bone synthesis. But it is not clear while this new bone is normal in strength or not. However, clinical trials of fluoride in patients with osteoporosis have not demonstrated a reduction in the fractures. It is only of a bookish knowledge. Acute toxicity of fluoride is manifested by gastrointestinal and neurological. There are certain other drugs which affect the serum calcium and phosphate. One such drug is strontium ranelate. It is an organic ion that is bound to two atoms of strontium, and it promotes osteoclast apoptosis and increases concentration of bone formation markers. And it is used in Europe for the treatment of osteoporosis. Second such drug is gallium nitrate. It is effective in managing the hypercalcemia associated with malignancies and possibly Paget's disease, and it inhibits bone resorption. To prevent nephrotoxicity, patients needs to be well hydrated to and have a good renal output. There is a certain antibiotic like metharamycin or plicamycin. They can be used to reduce serum calcium and bone resorption in Paget's disease and other conditions associated with hypercalcemia. Because of risk of serious toxicity like thrombocytopenia, hemorrhage, hepatic and renal damage, plicamycin is usually used only for short-term use. Several diuretics, notably thiazide diuretics and furosemide, can affect serum and urinary calcium levels, and you have learned very well about these diuretics when you have learned your chapter of. The next drug is the phosphate binding gel like Savilamar. It is used in combination with calcium supplements and dietary phosphate restriction to treat hyperphosphatemia and common complication of renal failure, hypoparathyroidism and vitamin D intoxication. That was all about your non-hormonal agents that affect bone mineral homeostasis.